motorcade blue. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade blue.
Who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past.
The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat Al-Qaeda.
All you got to do is start looking around, start thinking for yourself, start investigating things, and you will see it all right there. So you have the power. Humanity has the power. We have the power. Do you want to fight? You better believe you got one. 9/11 was an inside job.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
As for me, give me liberty or give me death.
The answer to 1984 is 1776.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. Today's date is Thursday, June 6, 2013. I'm your host, Rob Dew, and we have an amazing show lined up for you. So let's get started with our top stories.
Tonight, are the Bilderberg members ready to speak on the record? Then, the mainstream media's epic fail at breaking even one Obama scandal. And Rob Dew speaks with a telecommunication insider who blows the lid off Big Brother's surveillance system. All that and more coming up on the Infowars Nightly News.
Yeah, we've got quite a show coming up. I spoke with Jim, our telecommunications consultant expert, on the phone several times this week. We did a 40-minute interview, which will be coming up at the end of the show. And let me tell you, basically he's going to validate everything Alex Jones has been saying about the EAS, the NSA, all those, that hub that sprang out of the Telecommunications Act in 1996. He's going to lay it all down for you, so be ready for that. But first, we go into Bilderberg news. This is out of Infowars.com. Massive police operation in effect as Bilderberg confab convenes. The Watford Observer reports that a massive police operation is being mounted around the hotel using anti-terror laws to close roads and footpaths as the Bilderberg confab convenes and members of the financial elite arrive to discuss their agenda behind closed doors. In addition to the large influx of police, the government has declared a no-fly zone over the globalist event, according to the newspaper. And in addition to that, they built an amazing wall, which is being dubbed the Great Wall of Bilderberg. Here's a picture of it right here. They took several days working overnight, putting massive concrete boulders, steel fence with cabling, everything to keep these parasites, these human degenerates, safe from us, the people who want to know what they're talking about. And one thing that has come out of this year that hasn't been seen before is the massive media presence. Alex Jones, by going down there and leading the charge, has been enveloped by media outlets from all over the world. They all want to know what's going on. Of course, you're not going to hear it from the mainstream media here because we're all crazy conspiracy theorists, and they build great walls of Bilderberg to hide nothing. That's why they built the giant fence. So we're going to go to a video, and this is Alex being addressed by the many press outlets, and he's being chorused by a great many of supporters and activists who also want to know what is going on at this conference. And you can find this video on our Ustream page. It's at ustream.tv/Alex Jones Live, or I'll make it easy for you. You go to Infowars.com/B. There it is. It takes you to that page right there. It takes you to the latest articles, the latest videos from YouTube. And if you scroll down, we have our latest from our Ustream page. So Infowars.com/B is where you go to get all that latest information, and we're going to go to that video right now.
That a large contingent of Bilderberg Group members, the younger people, mainly the media moguls and people like Peter Thiel, are openly debating on the real agenda this year, going public and having real transparency. And so I tell you now, it's time for you to speak to the press, and it's time for you to be honest about the things you've done before more of you get indicted like you did back in the 70s with the Lockheed Martin scandal. So know this, we're aware of your lobbying, we're aware of you behind the closed doors, trying to get your fingers into the government stream of money, and we are here to point out that this is going on, and it's outrageous that many of you are worth 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 billion and attend this, and that you would make the taxpayers fit most of the bill for the iron fence that you've demanded that be built around the compound that you're meeting in. It is disgusting, and it's nothing but a exclamation point illustrating how we pay for your whole life and your whole world, and most of you are a bunch of stinking parasites. Freedom for my children in the future and living. They're already trying to merge the North American Union that Bush signed back in 2005 in secret, but that got leaked, with the European Union. Those transatlantic deals are already being made. We know that's their plan to remove local control from the county, city, state, federal level. I want my U.S. government back. I don't want my representatives being puppets bought off in the dark behind steel fences. I want the criminal lobbying to stop now, and I want a future for my children.
What would you like to be doing in 5 years' time or 10 years' time?
In 5 years' time, I would like to be basically off the air, and I'd like to be
a year off.
No, I'd like to be a farmer on our family farm.
Oh, right.
That's what I would like to do, and I would like to see the globalists fall like the old Soviet Union. I'd like to see most of them, after a trial, obviously be sent to prison for the crimes against humanity that they've committed, and I would like to basically hand over the reins of my media operation to some of my crew to continue to muckrake. But if we weren't in such dire straits, I would not be broadcasting 7 days a week. I would not be traveling the world. We appreciate I would undoubtedly, semi-retire. I'd probably write some books. We love you, Alex. Thank you. We love you, Alex.
I want to kill 80% of the world's population, I saw.
Absolutely. If you look at State Department Memorandum 200 by Henry Kissinger, you guys want this on the BBC?
Keep going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's talk about the goals of people like David Rockefeller, who praised Mao Zedong and his killing of over 60 million people in the New York Times. Look it up. Let's talk about Henry Kissinger, State Department Memorandum 200, 1973, calling for shutting off resources worldwide so that they could starve third world populations, and using war to destabilize countries so they couldn't industrialize, so that the Western world could maintain its dominance over everybody. They want a global new dark age, and they want all of us in the West poor as well. That's what they've talked about in some of their meetings from our moles, is how they want to make us poor so that we're so busy working 18 hours a day that we can't politically organize. They don't want a middle class. Tyrants always hate a middle class. These people want Agenda 21, a post-industrial world, a shutdown of society, and they are the enemy of free humanity, and I am here to put them on notice that the sleeping giant that is free humanity is rising! 1776. The answer to 1984 is 1776. 1776 worldwide.
We were in charge of America.
1776. You know that the Parliament
wasn't a good year for us.
No, it was a good year for you. Most of your Parliament, when they tested them and they were going to vote, were for freedom in the colonies, because they knew that those were Englishmen and women who were being denied their rights under Magna Carta 1215, and the king had to come to Parliament and demand that they vote for that declaration of war, and so they did it. And that's why they lost, because it was a civil war within the Magna Carta, and out of that we created the Bill of Rights and Constitution. America and the good parts of America is your heritage, and they've tried to turn you against it. 1776 belongs. Come on, Alex! You stop, boy! Yeah, your German queen is the usurper. Against the New World Order! America and England against the New World Order! Yeah! 1776!
We could have been in charge.
No! Take charge, the German king! He lost to the people of the United States, who were people trying to demand the Magna Carta!
So you could still be one of our colonists.
Yes, the United States would still be a colony of the German royalty. But it's not. And you need to stop being a colony of the German royalty.
Stop telling the truth, slave.
And it's time to kick out the governor generals out of Canada and out of Australia. Time to remove the German monarchy. You like that? You asked me what 1776 stands for? That's what it stands for. Freedom worldwide.
You bad boy. Stop telling the truth, slave. You bad boy, Alex. Stop telling the truth. You are, mate. You slave. Be quiet.
Turn around.
America's fight in 1776 was the fight that went on for 1,000 years in the British Isles and in Scotland and Ireland against Norman usurpers that came in here and enslaved. That's what the fight's all about. That's what 1776 is all about. Absolutely. Hey, it's not about divide and conquer. It's about coming together for our future of humanity and citing and lighting fires in the minds of man. Yeah! Come on! Now!
Give the poor man a cup of tea. He's not even...
Watch yourself, Alex. You've got to tell him a cup of tea.
Thanks very much. I'm off to lunch.
Hey, great meeting you. I've seen you work.
To meet you.
God bless, man.
Thank you.
Alex, have you got a message for Rachel Maddow?
Rachel Maddow, you're a failure. You see how they sell 1776 as a loss?
Yeah.
You guys pay for these empires and you get none of the goods. Just like we pay for the Iraq war and oil prices go up. It's all a big scam. None of these empires belong to us. All that belongs to us is freedom and our will to be free. And we are free.
Thanks for coming. That's great, that, mate. Fantastic.
Very inspiring to see the mainstream media outlets from other countries and around the world covering this event. And Alex there fired up with just a cast and crew of people from all over the world who are freedom lovers. He said, as he's walking through the streets of England, more people are awake there than he's ever seen anywhere. And that is a testament to you out there getting this information out, spreading the word, making posts on Facebook, sending out videos, becoming members of Prison Planet TV, doing all the things you do to, hopefully we could change this thing around, because, coming up, we're going to talk about how Bilderberg might even hold a press conference about their non-existent meeting. That doesn't happen. And, it's no big deal that 100 of the world's richest financial elite get together in the weekend to discuss, golf and pastries and stuff like that. And that takes us to our next article from Donna Anderson on Infowars.com. Yes, we do have a right to know what's going on at Bilderberg. Search Google News for Bilderberg coverage right now, and you won't see much from the mainstream media, even though it's happening right now. Why? Because they buy into the idea set forth by the rich and powerful members that it's a private party with nothing to see here, so move along, you dumb sheep. I'd added that one. But the discussions that occur at the Bilderberg Roundtable shape the corporate and government policies all over the world. Therefore, every person on the planet has a right to know what's going on. The general consensus among the mainstreamers and even some alternatives is that Bilderberg Shindig is a private party and it's none of your business what they discuss. If they don't want to share their meeting notes with us, that's fine, but that certainly doesn't mean that they're up to no good. No, it possibly couldn't mean that. These guys are all above the board. In fact, you take a look at this month's issue of Infowars magazine, you can see some of the people who are attending the conference. There's Google Schmidt right there. And who's that right there? That's Vernon Jordan. He worked with Bill Clinton, and there's Bill Clinton right there. But Vernon Jordan was on the Clinton cabinet, and he's been to many Bilderberg meetings. In fact, last year, We Are Change confronted him about this, and of course he said, oh, pshaw, there ain't nothing to say. We just get together, Kissinger dances on the table. We smear pastries on our faces. No, we're just having some good old fun. You must be a LaRoucher. So we're going to go to that video right now.
Mr. Jordan, very big fan.
Thank you.
If I could just ask you, our news organization actually ran into Bill Clinton, and he said you invited him to the 1991 Bilderberg group meeting. I did. My question is, who selected him right before he became president, and what happened at this very secretive establishment with no coverage of the press.
Well, we just had a good meeting.
I mean, there's no press coverage. You have international elites in banking, media, corporations, and press meeting in secret, and everybody calls it a conspiracy, and it never happened.
Well, it's not a conspiracy. I've been going since 1969.
What happens then?
We have a discussion. There's an agenda, and we discuss it.
Barack Obama
put out a report
in 2008.
No, he's never been.
He's never been there?
No.
I can just ask, why is there no press coverage of something so important?
We don't want any press coverage. We don't have to have press coverage.
It is the world's elite meeting in secret. Many people say they've engineered this economic crisis to start a one-world government.
You listen to the LaRouche people. They don't know what they're
doing. No, not LaRouche people. I just have to ask you. I mean, international reports have come out and they said that the Bilderberg does set up policy, and it's not just discussions.
We're not a policy-making group.
But Condoleezza Rice discussed missile defense systems, and it was reported by international sources that she set policy for it there.
No, she wasn't setting policy. She was making a speech. There's a difference. People come together and talk. We don't vote. Nobody pays us any attention. The only reason people pay us attention because there's this mystique around us.
And it's also violates the Logan Act. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, it's not. No.
Because you can't discuss policy with other people without approval from the government first.
Oh, you can discuss policy with anybody, like I was doing in there.
I mean, it was said. I mean, some people say Bilderbergs have come out and said that they actually planned this economic crisis to create a one-world government, a one-world order.
That's just bullshit.
What about David Rockefeller saying himself he wants a one-world government?
But that doesn't mean that everybody accepts that. Okay.
It was started by Prince Bernhard, a Nazi as well.
He was not a Nazi. He's a Dutchman.
He's also a Nazi. Look that up, sir. And I thank you for your openness, and I thank you for talking to me.
Speaking of nothing going on, you know, if you get the new magazine, here's a poster of all the companies that are associated with Bilderberg, either through their members or through subsidiaries of their members, or they're owned by conglomerates, and there it is in the OTS there. You could see them all. Nothing going on here. Nothing going on here. Just a few thousand people, or a few hundred people that represent thousands of the corporations, the major corporations, the food poisoners, like there. We got the military-industrial complex. We got the telecommunications companies. Nothing to see. You know, we're just getting together for some good old fun, some good old-fashioned shindigging with the elites. Which brings us to our next video. This is part 3 in the series that John Bound has been doing all week. It is called Bilderberg Exposed, Evolution by Stealth. Part 3 centers around the 70s and how the Trilateral Commission has now taken over the executive branch, or for those of you who don't know, that's the presidency, since 1973. So we go now to John Bound for that report.
Welcome to Bilderberg Exposed, Evolution by Stealth.
Tonight, we will discuss the global task force created to carry out the strategy of the Bilderberg Group.
In July of 1973, CFR member David Rockefeller founded the Trilateral Commission. The mission statement can be gleaned from their own publication, The Crisis of Democracy. The United States government weaknesses stem from an excess of democracy. And to solve this, we should restore the prestige and authority of central government institutions. The organization operates in the United States, Europe, and Asia. Its members have gradually infected the highest levels of U.S. government. Former President Jimmy Carter was groomed for office by Trilateral member Zbigniew Brzezinski. Carter subsequently installed Brzezinski as his assistant to the president for national security affairs. Carter then appointed 18 members of the Trilateral Commission to his cabinet and top government posts, including his vice president, Walter Mondale. Since that breach of the Oval Office, the U.S. Secretary of State position has been dominated by Trilateral members. This is how Barry Goldwater described the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateralist Commission is international and is intended to be the vehicle for multinational consolidation of the commercial and banking interests by seizing control of the political government of the United States. An ideology that continues to get stronger as the cancer grows in our highest levels of government. For more information, go to InfoWarsStore.com and please pick up Alex Jones' excellent documentary, Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, detailing the elite globalist agenda. Please join us tomorrow for a final look at the evidence of elitist collusion, all in the effort to consolidate their own wealth and power as the elitist Bilderberg agenda evolves by stealth. This is John Bound with the Infowars Nightly News.
So there you have it. Just, a group of good old boys getting together. Once again, nothing to see. That's why we have to build the Great Wall of Bilderberg around the hotel in England in front of the Skeletor statue that looks like it's part human, part machine, an ode to the transhumanists. Moving on, Bilderberg member set to speak on record. This is from Paul Joseph Watson out of Infowars.com today. Participant of secret confab set to talk with BBC. In advance of an interview with Alex Jones today, a BBC reporter told Infowars that the broadcaster had approached a Bilderberg member for a television interview, and although the person had refused to be on camera, a telephone interview was likely. If a Bilderberg member does agree to an interview with the BBC, it would likely serve as an opportunity to downplay the significance of the group. But mere fact that the participants of the secret confab have been forced to speak publicly represents major progress. There you go. And so that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for these members to come out and say, hey, this is what we're talking about. These are the issues that we're concerned with as giant multinational corporation representatives. And so we're going to be setting policy for the next few years, just to let you know. And here's what the policy is. We're going to starve these countries. We're going to go at war with these countries. And it's all for your own good and safety. And if you say anything about it, you're probably a terrorist. In fact, the police were reporting earlier this week that the fact there were no terroristic threats being made means that there's probably terroristic threats being made. Once again, since it is the 64th anniversary of 1984, it sounds like doublespeak to me. We go now to another video. Alex Jones interviewed a UKIP and a EU Parliament member, Gerard Batten, who's called for an investigation into the group. We're only going to play a small portion of that, but if you go to the article, UKIP and EU Parliament member Gerard Batten calls for investigation, you can watch the whole thing, and that you can find on Infowars.com or at Infowars.com/B. We go now to that interview.
My name is Gerard Batten. I'm a member of the European Parliament for London for the UK Independence Party, and we're here today outside the Grove Hotel where they're having the Bilderberg meeting because I'm one of those many people from many different political points of view who are asking the question, what are these people meeting for? I think this year is very significant because it's the first year in 59 years that we've actually got members of the mainstream press and media turning up to actually interview people like me and Alex Jones, who's here and filming me today, and asking what's going on. That's a major breakthrough, and I think that the reason that people are very upset about this is because they don't know what the conclusions are of these meetings. Now, they say they don't have any conclusions, but are we really supposed to believe that 130, 140 people of the most powerful, richest, influential people in the world give up their time, fly across the world to come here, and it doesn't have a significance? I don't believe that for a minute. If it isn't significant, why would they come? If it is significant, what does it all mean? And I think the reason that a party like mine, the UK Independence Party, is soaring ahead in the polls and getting votes is because people now feel that politics is something that's done to them and not something that's done for them. And this is the heart of the malaise. People feel that it doesn't matter what they think, it doesn't matter what they believe, they're going to have these policies that they don't want thrust down their throat anyway. And this is where my party's different, whether you agree with us or not. A lot of people feel that we're sincere and we actually stand for certain things, and that's why they're voting for us.
I heard you speaking with the London Telegraph just a few minutes ago, and you've obviously done your research because it's been declassified. The CIA funded the creation of the European Union. UKIP's the fastest growing party, obviously, now in the UK in the last elections, because you guys talk about how you're losing your sovereignty and how you've got EU license plates and 80% of your laws or so are EU and you don't get a vote on it. But again, it's a corporate group that took over America, created the UN, created all this. It's not even really America, but it was the CIA, kind of this corporate body that's anti-free market, kind of monopoly men, that did set up the EU to get rid of the sovereignty of Europe. I mean, if Hitler would have come up with a corporate plan to take over, we'd all be...
He did. Because, in actual fact, in 1942, the German central bank under Dr. Walter Funk, along with leading industrialists, set to how are we going to run the economy of Europe.
So even members of the EU Parliament want to know what's going on. Probably a bunch of conspiracy theorists. In fact, there wouldn't be anything like mergers being discussed. No, nothing like that. Oh, but Steve Watson reports here, would-be world's biggest oil merger agreed at Bilderberg. The London Telegraph reports today in its article titled Bilderberg Group, No Conspiracy, Just the Most Influential Group in the World, that recently a major oil deal, in fact would be the world's biggest, was formulated at a Bilderberg meeting. And this goes back to a gathering in 2004 in Italy. And it was, according to Tom Bergen's Spills and Spin, the account of the Gulf of Mexico disaster, Lord Brown, head of BP, used a walk by Lake Como at the 2004 gathering in Italy to suggest a vast merger with Shell to create the world's biggest oil company. Representatives from both BP and Shell are at the Bilderberg meeting this year, as usual, as well as members of the Dutch royal family and Dutch Prime Minister. Shell Oil is a subsidiary of Royal Dutch Shell, which was founded under the Royal Charter. So nothing going on. We're just going to create the world's largest oil company. And if they spill oil in the Gulf of Mexico, well, there won't be anybody doing anything about it, because then they just might turn off the supply or jack up the price or do whatever they want, because, you know, we have no power over them because we are their slaves, which is how they view us, which is why they meet in front of hotels with statues like this in front of it. Pretty weird, if you ask me. So that's going to conclude the first part of our Bilderberg portion of the news. We're going to come back with some more Big Brother news, but I want to end this section on a quote from David Rockefeller. Here it is. Everything is in place after 500 years to build a true new world in the Western Hemisphere. And what happens if we don't pass NAFTA? I truly don't think that a criminal would be too strong a word for rejecting NAFTA. So he thinks it's criminal that if we don't pass the North American Free Trade Agreement. I think that's what NAFTA stood for. And I believe it was Ross Perot who said, if that's passed, you're going to hear a giant sucking sound of jobs going down to Mexico, which happened. And then there was another giant sucking sound of those jobs leaving Mexico going to China, all in the name of globalism and corporate profits, and all at the detriment to the U.S. economy. We'll be right back after this break with some more transhumanist, Bilderberg, and Big Brother news right after this.
Many anthropologists and archaeologists believe that before man even discovered the power to harness and use fire, we were involved in agrarian activities. That is, taking the seeds of plants and then replanting them to produce more. The very foundation of our modern civilization and human culture is centered around the planting and cultivation of edible plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, you name it. And the globalists have been going after gardening. They've been harassing people that have gardens in their front yards or their backyards. They've called for licenses for people to have gardens because you can't trust prisoners in the police state America to be able to grow their own food. That's why I've come to the realization that we need to become self-sufficient. You need to be informed. You need to have the Second Amendment to protect yourself. You need to be politically active to wake up others. You need to filter your water. But you also need to plant a garden. Even if you live in an apartment, you can do this. If you live in the countryside, obviously you can do it on a grand scale. There are so many green belts in areas that humans don't even visit, nearby cities and in suburbs, where people are now more and more planting their own little private gardens and meadows and off the side of the road. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a revolutionary act to unplug from the television, to unplug from the computer and all the globalist propaganda, and to go out in your backyard or your front yard or planters at your apartment or on the roof of the building where you live, and to plant a garden.
Here are some of the amazing deals at Infowars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com. The Survival Seed Vault by My Patriot Supply features only the finest survival heirloom seeds for a robust and hardy garden, even in the toughest of times. The ARC All-in-One Seed Kit contains 70 varieties of 50,000 seeds of fruits, vegetables, medicinal, and culinary herbs. All ARC seeds are heirloom. Each type is labeled and sealed separately for ease of use and longevity. The Deluxe Emergency Seed Bank combines 3 of Emergency Seed Bank's top sellers: the Family Survival Emergency Seed Bank, the Medicinal Herb Seeds Pack,
and the Culinary Herb Seeds Pack. We also have starter varieties of the deluxe seed packages for fruit, salad, salsa, peppers, and medicinal herbs and more. Go to the Infowars Seeds Center at InfowarsShop.com.
A little seed can grow a huge tree that produces fruit for up to 50 years. We have the best life bombs. That's what these are. We have the best weapons against death out there at the lowest prices, waiting for you to lovingly plant them and lovingly grow them and lovingly eat them and share them with others. We will strike back against the New World Order, and this is only one more initiative in our fight against them. So please join us at InfowarsShop.com, or you can link through at Infowars.com at the Infowars Seed Center.
And welcome back to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew. And if you want more Bilderberg coverage, if you're not getting enough watching the nightly news and watching the radio show, there's a ton more we have. There's stuff going all over the place. But you got to go to Infowars.com/B for all the Bilderberg coverage. And we have our Ustream link down there. And I was just looking at it before we went on the air. And Alex and the crew are out to dinner with Max Kaiser and Stacy Hebert. And I think Max Kaiser called Henry Kissinger an ass. So you can go there, watch that for yourself, along with all the other videos that they have. They're uploading them constantly. There's a report from Stonehenge. I mean, it's just overload, information overload, but it's all there at Infowars.com/B. Also, if you don't have it yet, get this month's issue of Infowars magazine. It's got a whole Bilderberg issue, special report. We have a story in there about parents who took their child in for a second opinion, and CPS showed up to take the child away. Crazy stuff going on in this world. We're reporting on it while the mainstream media isn't, and you can check it all out at Infowars.com/store to get the Infowars magazine. Now we're going to move on to our Big Brother section today in honor of the 64th birthday of 1984. And with that, we go to Breitbart. Mainstream media failed to break even one of 4 Obama scandals. That's right. They didn't break any of them. And that's what you expect your media to do, is to break these stories. Here we go. Well, if it's Thursday, there must be a new Obama scandal. But one thing is for damn sure, whatever the scandal is, you can bet the American mainstream media will be playing catch-up and not carrying the glory of breaking a story about a major White House scandal. And they point out the 4. The Verizon story, which we'll get to in a second. Nope, not our guys. That was the Brits over at The Guardian. IRS? No, the IRS actually broke their own scandal with the planted question. The Justice Department seizure of Associated Press phone records. The AP didn't even break that story. That was the Justice Department outing themselves. Benghazi? No, that was the GOP Congress that demanded the email exchange around the shaping of the talking points. Not the mainstream media, who wanted to go with the story that it was a bunch of pissed off Muslims over this crazy movie that some guy in California made that turns out he might even have some government connections. You know, and they wanted to run with that it was just a riot gone wrong, not that it was the security that we hired there to protect the ambassador, that it was the ones that actually carried out an attack, that it was those guys. No, they don't want you to know that at all, because then you'll start looking at where the missiles went in Benghazi and the deal that Ambassador Stevens was brokering with the Turks to give them the missiles so then they could give them to the Syrian Al-Qaeda, which we're also financing. Big, deep hole of stuff that they don't want to get into. So let's just talk about a fictitious movie that's so ridiculously overblown that no one would believe that it has any bearing on the situation whatsoever. But that's the story that they wanted to give you. Moving on. The Department of Homeland Security, laptops can be searched based on hunches. Okay? I have a hunch. I have a hunch the Department of Homeland Security is up to no good. Can I search their computers? No, I can't. But U.S. border agents should continue to be allowed to search travelers' laptop, cell phone, and other electronic device and keep copies of any data on them based on no more than a hunch, according to an internal Homeland Security Department study. You know where most of the border checkpoints are in this country? They're not at the border. In fact, in the South, they're up to 90 miles inland of the border, beyond many major cities. In fact, there's one coming back from South Padre Island, which is more than an hour and a half away from the border. So what Homeland Security is saying, that these people can have the right to stop anybody and search their laptops, search their cell phones, search any of their stuff, and keep the data without anything more than a hunch. Wow. I wonder if they had a hunch that, you know, taking guns and giving them to Mexican criminals over and over again would lead to more Mexican gun crimes. I wonder if they had a hunch about that. I wonder if they had a hunch that the CIA was bringing in drugs into this country, if they would go after the CIA. No, they wouldn't do that. That's part of the plan. The DHS study dated December 2011 said border searches do not violate First or Fourth Amendment, which prohibit restrictions on speech and unreasonable searches and seizures. And it specifically objected to a tougher standard in a 1986 government policy that allowed only for a cursory review of a traveler's documents. The U.S. government has always maintained that anything a person carries across the border, a backpack, a laptop, or anything hidden in a person's body, is fair game to be searched as a means of keeping drugs, child pornography, and other dangerous goods out of the country, and to enforce import laws. Wow. I wonder if Homeland Security and the FBI, which this is an actual FBI program, I wonder if they think if starting a pedophile site is a great way to catch child pedophiles, which the FBI has done. In fact, they ran one for several months and then went after people that went to the site, but the FBI was running it. So if the FBI is bringing in drugs and selling them, should they be responsible for the drugs that they sell? No, 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 because they're just trying to catch the low-level people. Should they be responsible for the people they set up in all these bomb plots that turn out that they're either set up by FBI informants or undercover agents? And the undercover agent or the informant is the one getting them the bomb, or getting them the money, or getting the patsy the supplies and know-how to build the bomb and carry out the operation. Oh, no, no, we shouldn't look at that. No, no, we should just be concerned about two Russian boys who the FBI was investigating already, but claims they didn't even know who they were until they showed their pictures on national television. But thanks to the cracking Dan Badandi, everybody else out there knows that Infowars.com had photos of other people with backpacks. Crazy stuff, I tell you. Moving on. More on the FBI. Now the FBI wants backdoor to all software. And this is something we talked about with electronics in the past, where the Chinese came out and they said that, or actually it was U.S. officials said, the Chinese are building backdoors into these chips. How did they do that? And the Chinese came out and said, well, you told us to design the backdoors into the chips. We manufacture them in China, but you guys designed them. There you go. This is sort of the same thing, but this has to do with software. The FBI is unhappy that there are communication technologies that it cannot intercept, and it wants to require that software makers and communication companies create a backdoor so they can listen in when they desire. The importance to us is pretty clear, FBI General Counsel Andrew Weissman said of the report. We don't have the ability to go to court and say we need a court order to effectuate the intercept. Wiretap functionality allows covert access to communications that can be exploited not only by law enforcement, but by criminals, terrorists, and foreign military and intelligence agencies, the report said. Wiretap endpoints will be vulnerable to exploitation and difficult to secure. But they don't care. They still want this. And in there it mentions CALEA, which was something that was passed in 1994. It has to do with the kind of an add-on, or actually a precursor to the Telecommunications Act of '96, where it allowed law enforcement to set up the wiretapping and intercept apparatus into the communications hardware and software that we use today over and over again, which takes us to our next story, which is phone sex, banks, and Google for emails. The NSA is bigger than Verizon. The NSA's warrant for metadata on every single Verizon call for 3 months is jaw-dropping in its scope. Technology has made it possible for the American government to spy on citizens to the extent East Germany would have dreamed of. And it goes through these other reports. This is kind of a catch-all article, which I like these. In 2006, USA Today's Leslie Cowley reported that the NSA was secretly collecting call records with data from AT&T, Verizon, and Bell South. It's the largest database ever assembled in the world, and that the NSA wanted to create a database of every call ever made within the U.S. territory. All for our protection. All to find out who the patriot groups are and who don't like the government wanting to access every phone call made in the United States. And then in 2011, the New Yorker's Jane Meyer wrote she believes that the agency now stores copies of all emails transmitted in America, and in the case the government wants to retrieve the details later. In 2008, the Wall Street Journal reported that the NSA's domestic data collection has evolved to reach more broadly into data about people's communications, travel, and finances in the U.S. than the domestic surveillance programs brought to light since the 2001 terrorist attacks. So basically, they're setting it all up, and it's now finally coming out. And in a few minutes, we're going to go to an interview with a telecommunications consultant who has been working in this field for nearly 30 years. And basically, everything in these articles that we've been reporting, he's going to say that's just the tip of the iceberg. Just you wait. Moving on to our second to last article. This is kind of a flashback. People don't believe this sometimes. CIA chief, we will spy on you through your dishwasher. Earlier this month, General Petraeus mused about the emergence of an Internet of Things, that is, wired devices, at a summit for In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital firm. Transformational is an overused word, but I do believe this properly applies to these technologies, Petraeus enthused, particularly to their effect on clandestine tradecraft. Once upon a time, spies had to place a bug in your chandelier to hear your conversation. But with the rise of the smart home, you'll be sending tagged geolocated data that a spy agency can intercept in real time when you use the lighting app on your phone to adjust your living room's ambiance. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We reported yesterday that the Xbox Connect will be able to tell how many people are in your living room, who they are, what they like, what they talk about. It's all just part of the Big Brother apparatus. This on the 64th birthday of 1984. And basically, this spy thing, you know, it's kind of the way the government likes to go around. The way it happens in local, that's on your national level. On the local and county area, you have a lot of these red light speed cameras that they use to spy on us and also fine us for driving our cars, or actually conveying our conveyances. Is that the right word? Yeah. Using our conveyances across the roadways to travel. And Gigi Ernetta has this quick report on a judge who actually threw out a case, actually fined the guy $1 for a red light camera infraction, saying these cameras are nothing more than a 3-card Monty. We go to Gigi Ernetta right now.
Speed cameras and red light cameras are just another way for counties and cities to steal millions from citizens while denying due process of law. Case in point, Judge Ruhlman of Hamilton, Ohio, said that the Elmwood Place cameras that were there, the automated speed enforcement program, were just a case of 3-card Monty, or a sham.
The speeding ticket generated by opto traffic from an uncalibrated machine and no possibility for a trial stacked impossible odds against the citizens. In Baltimore, one of these dependable speed cameras gave a speeding ticket to a motionless car.
Makes you wonder how many tickets are given without just cause. You can fight back.
Arizona was the only state to implement photo enforcement on major highways. And in 2010, Infowars.com reported about Arizonians who stood up and fought back by covering cameras with wrapping paper, boxes, and even the Easter Bunny got involved. As a result of citizen revolt, in July of 2010, Arizona pulled the plug on this program of abuse. Arm yourself with the truth. Learn more about your rights on the Alex Jones channel and check out the video former Nacogdoches Sheriff's Deputy Eddie Craig put together. Secrets police don't want you to know, including that driving from one point to another for non-commercial use is a right, not a privilege. Sign up today at PrisonPlanet.tv. You can share your username and password with up to 10 people.
I'm Gigi Ernetta with an Infowars Nightly News Alert.
Thank you, Gigi, for that report. And now for our final article of the day, we celebrate the birthday that is 1984, and this is out of the National Journal. How outraged should you be about the NSA grabbing your phone logs? The records don't contain the contents of the phone calls Yeah, right. So just to be clear, this isn't wiretapping. Yeah, right. But they do contain information such as phone numbers, the location, the duration of the call, the subscriber, and handset ID numbers, all of which fall under the category of telephony metadata. This court order probably doesn't merit the ACLU's charge that it was beyond Orwellian, but it is no small irony that 1984 was published 64 years ago today, and that was on the bottom of a section on the Drudge Report today listing all these different scandals that the government is being caught into now, eavesdropping on its citizens, collecting data, storing it in giant yottabyte centers in the middle of the desert. I mean, this is where it's all going to. They want to collect everything so they can sift through it at their own leisure. At any time, they want to either frame somebody, investigate somebody that they don't like, maybe send the IRS after somebody. Oh, wow, they don't do that, do they? Well, yes, they do. And now we're going to go to break. But first, I want to play or just show you a short quote from 1984. This is from a liner that we've played many times on Infowars, the Alex Jones Show. He who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. And that is from George Orwell's 1984. And we're going to go to break. We're going to play one short commercial. And then after that, we're going to go into an excerpt of a video we put up in February of 2011. It is titled, Obama Launches Total Takeover of Media Emergency Alert System. And this video it goes back to 2000 when Alex was investigating the EAS takeover. Actually, he was doing that back in the late 90s, but he put it in Police State 2000. He put it in numerous other videos. The latest one was Police State 4, The Rise of FEMA. This is about a 4 minute excerpt of that. You can watch the whole video on our YouTube Alex Jones channel. Once again, it's called Obama Launches Total Takeover of Media, the Emergency Alert System. And we will be right back after this with our technology consultant, James Knox, who, let me tell you, he's going to knock your socks off with the information he's about to present. Get ready to have your mind blown.
The important thing about the Pro 1 filter today is that the material we use for removing fluoride and other heavy metals now will remove the latest form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid. There's no other fluoride reduction filter out there that will remove that type of fluoride. And it's extremely important because today we're hearing more and more cities are using that form of fluoride.
We've been having medication forced on us through the water system for quite a while. Most people don't realize it. Most people don't realize the negative effects of fluoride.
There's a wide range of health effects that are attributed to fluoride.
Bottom line, why should somebody get this new Pro 1 ProPure filter?
The reason to buy the Pro 1, it's an all-in-one filter. It's convenient, easy to use. It doesn't require the add-on fluoride filter. And in addition, this filter removes the latest form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid.
This is a test of the emergency alert system.
Executive Order 10,995 allows the government to seize and control the communication media.
Our nation is at war against a far-reaching network of violence and hatred. Training camps have been struck, leaders eliminated, plots disrupted. And all those involved in the attempted act of terrorism must know you too will be held to account.
Think about it. 15 years ago, we allowed the federal government to hardwire emergency takeover systems of all major communications and media in the United States. Now the federal government's coming out in the open and admitting what was already in their internal documents, that they're going to begin having federal break-ins over local news.
If this had been an actual alert, this message would contain specific information on the watch or warning being issued.
Well, it's really happening. Bonafide tyranny is coming to our shores. If you look at Egypt, you've witnessed how the government has seized control of the TV and radio stations. But in the United States, the federal government doesn't need to do that, because under changes in FCC regulations over television and radio in 1996, EAS emergency systems are put in at the radio or TV towers. They're also put in at the national and local cable systems, where the federal government puts a box in at the transmission tower where they can flip a switch and shortwave towers nationwide take over those computers and put out an audio signal of whatever message they want. Senator John Rockefeller, goes by Jay Rockefeller, has announced they need to end the internet, that it's bad, and that private companies will have government hubs tied into them to snoop on everyone without warrants and to be able to shut down the web instantly. See, right now the government has to get warrants and go out and seize all the hubs. Here's another one. America's secret police. Intelligence experts warn the proposal to merge two Pentagon intelligence units could create an ominous new agency. And the head of cybersecurity just resigned 3 weeks ago, saying the Pentagon and Homeland Security are taking over the internet and it's a threat to freedom in America. So their own guys quitting, saying this takeover is happening. All the radio and TV in the nation under the emergency alert system in '96, under a federal law and executive order, FEMA is wired into the transmitters themselves and cable to take over all the systems and broadcast anytime they want. Before, the stations would tune to a signal themselves. Now that's out of their hands. All of that's going on. So see, they've got the preachers, they've got the citizens, they've got the military prepared for martial law, and they could remotely listen to you even when the cell phone's off. That's standardized the cell phones. And all telecommunications companies were given $9 billion total to put in whole floors for the NSA to move into. So the NSA doesn't tap the phone companies. They are the phone companies. Just like FEMA on all radio, TV, cable, you name it, is already in control with hubs at the transmitter site or at the satellite uplink site. The last piece of equipment, this is in my film Police State 2000, by the way. See, I was sitting there talking to the engineer in 1996 at KJFK FM, and he calls me over and goes, look at this, Alex, they're ordering us to do this. Here's all the secret documents. We're not supposed to show this to anybody. And I was sitting there reading it. FEMA takes over through this. Everything you do goes through this system. I mean, that's what you hear when it goes, bang, bang, bang. You know, this has been an emergency alert system. That is a federal test tone going via shortwave radio transmitters, dials in, and takes control of your radio station. And that's what they say right here. During emergencies, when they're rounding people up and arresting them and shooting people, their job is to keep the media shut down. They don't have to come arrest Alex Jones. They hit one button, the internet shuts off. They hit one button.
If this has been an actual alert, this message will contain specific...
And welcome back to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew. And what you were watching there during the break is a video Alex and I put together back in February of 2011 concerning the EAS takeover system that has been going on, well, since the mid-'90s when President Bill Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act of 1996. And a few days ago, we got an email. Actually, Don forwarded me this email, and he said, hey, this guy might be interesting. And it wasn't cryptic, but it was a real short email, kind of to the point, saying, hey, I've been in this business for nearly 30 years, and everything Alex is saying is spot on. And he didn't really say he wanted to come on the show. I contacted him back. We've exchanged emails, talked to him on the phone. And our next guest, he calls himself now a critical infrastructure consultant. But since the mid-'80s, he's been working, you know, on those boxes that you see on the side of the road, those radio towers that you drive past every day, the things that you've never really opened up and looked inside. And we're showing some pictures of that now. And these are pictures that our next guest sent me of stuff that he's worked on all over Texas, New Mexico, California. He'll probably correct me on a couple of those, but he's been all over building these infrastructure, telecommunications apparatus, maintaining them. He knows how they work. And I think what you're about to hear is going to be a lot of validation from what Alex has been saying for years. You're going to hear from an industry expert. He's going by a pseudonym, James Knox, and he's been doing this for a long time. But he does have an email set up for if anybody wants to contact him. It's darkcomo@gmail.com, and we'll put that up on the screen when we start talking to him. And it's James Knox. How you doing today, James?
Thanks for inviting me on. And by the way, it's Dark Commo, C-O-double-M-O.
C-O-double-M-O. All right. I hope we have that graphic right. I might have wrote it down wrong. We do have it right on the graphic. There we go. Cool. We win. All right. So basically, this is my first question for you, and then we'll get into your background and some other stuff you've done. But Alex Jones has said this many times. He has said, you know, the telecommunications companies, you know, the NSA doesn't have to hack into them because the NSA is the telecommunications companies. Is that a true statement? And how, if it is, how close to the truth is it, and whatnot?
Well, you know, really, it would be how you want to look at that. I mean, you could say that, you know, to associate them in the sense of, do they have the same ability? In some ways, yes, but in some ways, no. And a lot of that really comes down to the legality and the way that the administration decides to perceive the laws, and in this case, especially the Telecommunications Act and CALEA. So what happens is, effectively, for them to monitor the packets or the data, the phone call, the email, whatever, it really doesn't matter. They do have that access. They don't have access to, say, the billing records, which is why you see this deal with Verizon today, and them going to Verizon and saying, hey, we want all this metadata. And that all comes out of the billing architecture of the switch. But this CALEA legislation put forth a deal where there's a point of presence in every central office in the United States. It's communications access for law enforcement authorities. It's to protect us from the boogeyman. So in essence, what Alex says is right, but are they in business together? No, but are they in cahoots? Oh yeah, and a lot of what happens is if these boys want to roll into a central office somewhere and put up a carnivore box or anything else, me or anybody else working there is probably going to ask who they are, and then if the badges get flipped, you're going to go, yeah, okay, man. And you're not going to ask questions because you know better.
Right. Well, let's go into your background a little bit.
Long answer, but that's really kind of the nutshell of the whole thing, because his short answer does put it all together. So, you know, again, I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. It puts a lot of perspective into things. They're not exactly the same, you know, they're not a government entity, but they are basically opening the floodgate for that information to go straight to the government whenever they want it, you know, but there's so much information, you know, now it's getting ridiculous. But let's go into your background a little bit. You sent me your resume. It's very, you know, you got a lot of field service work. Let's see, what else? Engineer work, operations manager work. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field and how you've seen it change since you started in the mid-'80s to what you see today?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. Well, I got into it in 1984, you know, graduated high school early. Actually, I finished my senior year in a month through the whole homeschool program. And then went in the service, was offered to go to West Point, turned that down because that just seemed kind of too pansy to me. So, yeah, I know. No disrespect intended there. It was just kind of my feelings at the time. You know, I wanted to be an NCO, the guy that worked for a living.
Right.
So anyway, going forth, I got into this strategic microwave systems repair course, which was the longest course in the military, which got me doing ComSec and a bunch of things that, you know, I really don't want to go into that stuff in my background because much of it is classified and is still classified as far as I know, and will stay so until I die. So, you know, I really don't want to go into that stuff. So moving forward, I got out after 6 years and then went into the commercial world, and we started deploying and maintaining networks for the Forest Service, power plants, utility companies, oil companies, cellular systems. And in about 95, it's huge. It was about 500,000 towers were built in the U.S. I did a whole network of 66 hops in Texas down by your area. Spent a year and a half doing it. And it encompassed from Corpus Christi to San Antonio, out to Del Rio, out to Langtree, down to Brownsville, and back up to Corpus. That's all still there. And what we would do, you know, do all the engineering, get all this stuff, deploy it to the field, transport it out, install it, turn it up, test it, and basically, here you go. And then they light it up with the BTS equipment, which is the cellular equipment. And then that all gets taken up and put back to what's called a MITSO, which is a mobile transmission switching office. which is just like a central office, except it's for the mobile or cellular side of the house, and then that goes up. So that was a huge outgrowth within America, was the cellular network, and that really changed the look of things. And also at that time, you had Clinton pushing and getting signed the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which really changed the telecommunications industry huge. And I probably don't want to go into that yet, and maybe I ought to stop for a second and you know, you want me to keep going on this?
No, let's keep going on the Telecommunications Act of 96, because it is a large piece of legislation. Just on Wikipedia, you can find the first significant overhaul of the telecommunications law in more than 60 years. So obviously you're going to have a lot of things encompassing that. It was the first act to communications bill to have the internet into it, and it is very large. So why don't you kind of give us an overview of that? And then the things that you saw about it, because you said you were speaking out about it back in the 90s when this thing was going on. And what were the things that you saw that you didn't like about
it? A lot of it came to pass in 2000, and it was done via software package upgrades with AT&T. And, you know, like you said, the TCA is a very large piece of legislation. So I think I'm going to stick more to CALEA and stick to that, because that's really what is going to touch everyone's life and does now touch everyone's life.
Right.
So what they did when they implemented these software packages is not only they made a lot of money off of you, the subscriber, because in the end, look at your phone bill, look at all the taxes, look at all the little fees that are on there.
Yeah, you're paying.
Look at, and you have no idea what it is.
You're paying for that surveillance grid.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I said you're paying for this surveillance grid. That's what we're doing right now.
Exactly. You are, everybody, every one of us is paying them to spy on us if they choose. And I got a lot to say about that, but let me back up here and talk about the TCA and CALEA. So anyway, to speak just to CALEA, the big thing that it created that I really saw as a problem and I was real worried about was this access. Because the problem with access is, even though it's filtered, they have access. So you have to give them trust. And, you know, I don't know about you and everybody out there, but I was taught and raised, you never trust the government. You know, I'm here to help you. I don't think so. And I think some of that is lost in America, but that's another subject. So anyway, it created this point of presence, this access point that's a physical layer interface for the authorities, public servants, to access every central office in America. So what that basically means that when I pick up my smart device, smart devices in my house that are connected to your wireless router in your home, your internet access, your email, what you do, what kind of porno you like, if your wife watches it with you, and you know, you can go down that trail a lot. And the only reason I use that is I want to make the point people need to understand these people are looking in your bedroom. They will watch you copulate if they can. And like Alex says, they're a bunch of sycophants, and they are. But I'll leave that part to Alex. He probably does it better than me. So anyway, but that point of presence, it creates this, it's like having a guy like me at the keyboard. Mm-hmm. All they have to do is sit up to a terminal that's hot to this system, and they can access this database any way they want. So jumping forward very rapidly today, and what we see, you sent me this link about the yottabytes and the repository that's in Utah. And, you know, that's because storage has gotten so cheap. It's cheaper to throw a hard drive away and destroy it than it is to take the time to erase it now. So what they're going to do is they have this open pipeline, and they're not spying on you. They're just collecting the everything data, the internet. I mean, just everything within the transport pipe, because really you can think of it as a piece of pipe, and you know, just like in plumbing, and it fills up. So they've got this little valve that goes in there, and it reads everything about whatever's flowing through there, and it makes a copy of it, and it stores it in this little box in Utah, And it's just sliced up to time and where it was and whatever. And, you know, there's certain things about it, however they decide to. And then Joe Analyst says, hey, Rob Dew, let's see what that guy did back in 2013. So they go back and look, and they see everything that you've done, everything and anything, email,
analyzing government corruption, everything.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that was I would be that's what they would catch me on, analyzing government corruption.
Yeah,
you know?
and you know, we could even jump from that to the NDAA.
Yeah,
and think about this. Okay, you're going and looking at government corruption. Okay, but you know, I'm a squirrely CIA. Christians in action is what they like to call themselves when Bush was in office. I met a guy that kind of tried to recruit me in at the ranch there. It's in the middle of nowhere, in, south of Bakersfield. I can't think of the name of it, but anyway, I met this guy, and he was real adamant. He was up at Davis recruiting youngins to go in the CIA, Christians in action. And I kind of walked away. You know, he thanked me for my service and all that. It was just kind of an interesting meeting. I don't know if I was set up and they were looking, you know, checking up on me or what, but nonetheless, it happened. Strange thing. So I just found that interesting that they chose to be so seemingly religious right about the whole thing. I haven't had any contact with those folks, so I couldn't tell you what their you know, behavior's like today. But you know, those are things that I just, and you know, of course, I pay attention to because of my background.
We were talking about the filter going from Utah, basically making a copy of everything that's going out into the communications telesphere, and then you have analysts looking at that and then targeting people. Say they find a person of interest. Well, they can go in, type in everything that they've ever done and bring up a list, and then they could cross-reference that with keywords, any of that stuff, and then pull that in and build a profile on somebody really quickly. And using that information, they could either plant evidence on you. They could do a lot of different things.
Yes, they could. I mean, you talk about planting evidence. You know, think about what can be done with Photoshop these days, or manipulating documents. Which then one big one comes to mind.
Oh, well, hold on.
Birth certificate.
Actually, your Skype cut out the second you were talking about it. I believe you were mentioning the Obama's birth certificate. Was that correct?
Yes, yes. Just as you know, a manipulated document that is.
Well, they manipulated the sound right there. That was. I mean, I could read your lips, and you were talking about the birth certificate, but there was no audio right at that spot. Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Yeah, that's kind of an abomination, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, getting back to the birth certificate, you know, that's something that they said, you know, here's this copy. This came straight out of the books in Hawaii, but it's got all these layers on it. The letters match up perfectly. I mean, total bad Photoshop mess. We looked at it the day it came out. I threw it into Illustrator, pulled the layers apart. 30 different layers pop up, different letters, some little passages, and people were on, you know, the defendists were out there going, oh, well, that's just because the way it reads the document. I'm like, no, it's not. These are layers, people. I've looked at plenty of documents in my time, and I've done plenty of Photoshop in my time, so I know how it works. Right. So, you know, that's basically what we're looking at overall, and why I wanted to get you on was to talk about that the government has the capability to go in and do this stuff, and whether people want to believe it, they want to stick their head in the sand or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, you've been working on this stuff for nearly 30 years. I mean, how easy is it for the government to, with a few keystrokes, find out who you are, where you live, what you're doing, what you like to eat, what you like to buy on the web, who you talk to? I mean, how easy is that?
If they have access to the infrastructure created by Leah, it's as easy as sitting in front of a terminal and typing in your name or whatever keywords I want to search for. And within that fast, I'm going to get hits, whatever, you know, it's just like doing a Google search, except I'm searching data points in actual intel that exists on hard drives in some repository somewhere, you know, and you got a database analyst that's creating this huge database. Now, I've never seen this database, so I can't say it exists, but I'm a libertarian, and I have been for a very long time, long before, you know, things kind of became what they were today. I pretty much, and then I was a libertarian, but a pragmatic Republican when Reagan was around. But I've kind of, things have changed with that for me anyway. But that being said, people used to say to me all the time, you know, geez, James, why do you stay in this business? You know, you don't agree. I'd say, well, yeah, but you know how to build it, you know how to take it apart. Which I probably shouldn't say in public, but I really don't care anymore, because that's the point. And that's what people need to understand is, yes, it can be taken apart, but they need to know that it exists and it's there. And it's set up such that you don't see it. It's just like you go to a casino in Las Vegas. You ever noticed how just nondescript the security system is, but in reality, it's very difficult to find any place to stand where you're not being monitored by some camera?
And a team of people watching you. We were in doing an interview with Dr. Russell Blaylock in the Wynn Casino Hotel, that big system, the big Wynn setup.
$2 billion, I believe that one cost, didn't it?
We pulled out a little camera real quick. I'm like, oh, let's get a shot of the roulette wheel. You know, we'll use this in the video. I pulled that out. I shot for literally 6 seconds, and somebody was standing behind me going, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?" I said, "How did you get here so fast?" He goes, "I can't tell you that." He goes, "But you got to put that camera away. You can't." And I wasn't even in the casino. I was in the adjoining area where you eat, and it had windows open to the casino because they want to, you know, they want you to see it at all times.
Right.
One of the interesting things I thought is when you're riding the elevator, the music's real soft, and when the elevator opens, it's the same music, but it's super loud. That has a big psychological effect on you. Yes. I mean, it's like, whoa, I'm going to go gamble now. You know, really creepy area of, you know, Las Vegas is totally creepy. But going into that, yeah, you don't see the surveillance that's there. And it's not like they're sitting there, you know, on the red lights. You know, you see those cameras. But there's cameras that you're not seeing, and
they're everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, literally, I've done a lot of security. Matter of fact, when I was at Fort Huachuca, the shop that I ran, and I can talk about this. None of this is classified. Fort Huachuca was becoming a military intelligence school, which it is fully now. But I built the interrogation center for the school, and that was kind of cool because I got to learn the Army's interrogation techniques and all that and how they set it up. But in talking to some of at least the Army guys, you know, and everybody kind of follows that anyway. The whole idea is to set the cameras up such, and they go around, and the engineers that do it, and they set it up with the idea that they're looking for dead spots, and if they find one, they put up another camera because they don't. And that's the thing, you know, that's another big deal here that people need to understand is these items have become throwaway items, and they're ultra high-tech items. I mean, this webcam that I'm communicating over now, my wife just bought it yesterday. Yeah. It's $100, does 1080p, works very well, plug and play, you know, and here I am, I'm online. You know,
yeah, that didn't exist,
half an hour to set up.
You know, 10 years ago. That technology wasn't around. Or if it was, we had no access to it.
And it cost a fortune.
Right. Yeah, we didn't have access to it. You know, the CIA has been talking with this stuff for years, and the other government entities. Hey, I want to go to some of these articles. I did send you some, and we covered them last segment. I want to jump to the FBI now wants backdoor to all software. And I'll just read the first paragraph here. The FBI is unhappy that there are communication technologies that they cannot intercept and wants to require that software makers and communications companies create a backdoor so they can listen in when they desire. How does that make you feel?
In all honesty, that's totally classic. And just by way of example, we used to sell crypto devices to the South Koreans, and they ended up finding out about this, but I'm not sure I should talk about that, so that's all I'm going to say. But we sold this device called an SW-15, which was an exact duplicate of a device that we used, but the SW-15 had a modification. It had a backdoor. So that's another thing that people have long been fooling themselves. I have always felt comfortable hiding in plain sight for one reason: the Constitution. Never have I feared my government the way I fear my government today. And knowing that I built the systems and the networks, because without what I built, none of this works. It all goes away. I mean, you know, the smart meter, all this stuff. I mean, I can tell you down to the screws how every one of these networks work. I can sit here and tell you how the transport systems work, what the architecture of that of the packets are. You know, we could strip the Ethernet out. We can go into Wireshark, and I can show you how we can do deep packet inspection. I can do all that stuff right here. All I need is the access. You know, matter of fact, about 5 miles as a crow flies from here is the railroad tracks, which is, well, it's the I-80, you know, crossing that goes up over Tahoe. There's there's glass, you know, that's major coast-to-coast glass right there. If I had if I had access to the CLIA point of presence right there, I, myself, with Wireshark and a bunch of hard drives, could set up a network. It could drive every bit of data that goes through those optics. I even know ways to do it without them finding out that I'm doing it. Actually.
Well, and how many of you are there out there that have been doing this, or that could do this?
Well, it's kind of weird. I know more dead people than I do alive people anymore in this business. And that really is the truth. But then I did a lot of tower climbing too, and I can pretty much tell you stories about, usually about one guy a year, you know, falls off the tower somehow and dies.
Yeah.
It's actually considered the most dangerous in the world. I saw it that way because for me it was nothing but fun. But
right.
I should send you some pictures of that. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I bet.
I digress, though.
Those towers are huge. Let's go to this next one. Phone sex, banks, and Google for emails. The NSA is bigger than Verizon, which is where they were asking for the billing data, which you were alluding to earlier. That's the one thing they don't have is the billing data there. And
that goes back. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What's your take on that article? And you know, the fact that this information is now starting to come out more and more. We're starting to, you know, before nobody would ever talk about this stuff. It was you're crazy. Now it's coming out.
Right, and I think it's because it's too big. You know, you could hide it before because it was total. But once they started using it in the daily basis, how do they hide it? And you know, another thing, just to kind of throw in here, I don't know if people know that Facebook is publicly funded by, guess who? The CIA.
Yeah. Yeah, we've covered that.
I would recommend everybody go to like the C-SPAN archives and look at the Telecommunications Act of '96 hearings, and especially the hearings about the carnivore device.
Oh, right.
But anyway, this here, see, this is the point. This is what I built the internet that this rides on. So, I've known this has existed and this capability has existed since the CLIA infrastructure was implemented. So there's no surprise here, but the surprise has always been getting people to understand that this exists. And usually people go, but they're not going to use it for bad things. It's okay.
It's only for terrorists. It's only for terrorists.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they're selling it for. And if you believe there's a boogeyman, no. You know, it's kind of like, and I'm probably going to take a hit for this one, but I caught this article about the LGBT heckler with Michelle Obama.
Right, right.
Do you know that it's about 4% of the population is those folks?
Right.
Why is it such a big deal?
It shouldn't be. They should be able to do what they want. We should be able to do what we want. You know?
Exactly. But
it's turned into a divisive issue to get people to start turning on each other.
Right. Okay. And what I was going to say with that, and this is the big deal to me, I think it's, to me, that's a psyop. It's flat diversion because they want that. It distracts you from the real issue. And the real issue is that you have no freedom. Big Brother is here. Big Brother lives in your house. If you know, once we're offline and not doing this, my webcam will be unplugged.
Oh, right. Exactly.
If you want to get away from your cell phone, wrap it in tinfoil.
Right.
If the battery's out of it, it still has a capacitor in it that'll allow it to work for a certain period of time. So anyway, I guess what I'm really trying to say is that people need to believe this. I mean, if you like, I can explain deeper, but I kind of start feeling like I'm repeating myself.
Well, I want to go back to two things you were touching upon. One, the Facebook CIA angle. Sean Parker, one of the co-founders of Facebook before it took off big, when he was 16 years old, he got busted for hacking. Who was he visited by? The CIA.
Exactly.
And then what does he do? He forms Napster, which is this MP3 technology that nobody was using at the time, and we're supposed to believe a kid in a dorm came up with this algorithm and able to send this stuff back and forth without any help from anybody at all.
No.
And then we see him, and then he shows up next to Facebook when it's taken off. He just happens to be there. I mean, we're supposed to believe that this is just, oh, he's the only guy that could do this. And, you know, he kind of looks like a CIA, you know, starting off as he was handled, and then he becomes a handler. Now, I can't prove any of that. I don't know if any of that's true, but that's what it looks like from the surface. And then you see all the other Facebook NSA ties going out there, and, you know, it makes you wonder. And they have the big thing with their IPO. It tanks, but the guys cash out and make a lot of money. And, you know, it's just over and over again. They seem to just have, you know, the golden gloves with every situation. And you were talking about how they're spying on you through your home. I want to go to this article. CIA chief will spy on you through your dishwasher.
Yes.
This is David Petraeus talking about the CIA director. He was talking about, you know, these new things that they're going to be able to just go in and through any device, through the electrical lines, which are why the smart meters are so important, they'll be able to spy on you. Right. They'll turn your whole system, your whole house, into a giant spyware device.
Exactly. And what they're doing, if you're familiar with broadband over power line?
Yes. Yes. That's a big thing. They have lights that can communicate.
Same architecture. So basically, the AC network in your house becomes a communications network.
Right.
And all they're doing is taking and modulating a signal onto the 60 hertz signal that exists on the power line, and they communicate. I could get into the whole brass tacks, but everybody'd fall asleep. Yeah, that all exists. So if you have these devices, and if they have a camera and a microphone, and like this camera, and probably all of them now, they have motion detection. I know I can even turn this camera on, so if I move my head, the
it'll
iris
focus
will
on
actually follow by some means.
Yeah, that goes. I mean, that goes back to we were looking at another article a few years ago about police stations were getting outfitted with these special light systems, and the lights would actually flicker at rates. The humans wouldn't notice this, but computers could read the flicker, and it could control the temperature. It could do all this stuff just through the lights flickering on and off. It'd set up like a little binary type code that sensors would read. So this could be done on.
Actually, that would be just like a teletype machine, and they would use. It would just basically be visual frequency shift keying.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you know the technical terms of it.
It's kind of akin to SOS.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a sort of a binary Morse code through light and whatnot, which is exactly what, you know, Morse code was through sound, and this is just doing the same thing with light. You know, we got so much we could talk about. We're definitely going to have you on again. Very interesting. We can talk about smart meters next time if you want to come on and talk about that.
Oh, sure.
We had a lady talk about that on Monday. Very interesting lady. But I want to end it with, you know, today is actually the 64th anniversary of the printing of 1984. And I think it's apropos that we've got Bilderberg trying to hold secret meetings over across the pond in England. You happen to contact us this week to talk about the very spy hubs that are set up and paid for by us, and we don't even realize it, or it's just something that you can't believe. It's so fantastic. And here you are, somebody who's built these things for 30 years saying, hey, it's all true. I mean, what world are we living in now?
By my reckoning, be afraid. Be very afraid, because we have a bunch of not so highly intelligent, and I'm not sure we can trust their motives, individuals that have access to these systems, and they have access to everything. I mean, you know, like you were saying, Rob, and this is what people really need to stop and think about, is when somebody can access this, like Facebook, and Facebook, you know, becomes this, you know, you're giving it to them for free. You're telling them what you do in your life, and a person could go on there, and if they're looking, And if they have access to these more things, you know, the things that you think they don't know, and they can sit there for an hour or two and figure out what your political beliefs are, you know, what your sexual bent is, what kind of food you like to eat, what kind of sports you're into, where you shop, how often you talk on the phone, you know, on and on and on. Within a couple hours, they know who you are, and you don't even know they went and looked at it.
Yeah, no, it's very scary. I want to give you any final closing thoughts before we go today. It's been a great interview. This is James Knox, and he's a critical infrastructure. What did I have there? Yeah, critical. I've lost your resume.
Oh, it does. It's I'm a telecommunications consultant.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know, you know, I've worked on all the other systems that go along with that. So, you know, anything with critical infrastructure and telecommunications, that's been my life. You know, cellular. You know, we always made a joke: DC to daylight. Meaning, you know, radio all the way up to large fiber optics networks.
Right.
The last large network I did, just to kind of maybe so people know that, you know, I'm not kidding. I am who I say I am. And no, I'm not using my real name, but that's because my name's kind of weird. There's only one of me in the world. James is my first name, though. Anyway, you know, if anybody wants to contact me, I set up that email just for that purpose.
Right.
For any reason, you know, I'm just kind of curious. I've never done anything like this before. I'm just kind of sick and tired of seeing what's going on. Matter of fact, I live in... Can I talk about what happened to me the other night, Rob?
Yeah. I'll set it up for you. We'd talked on the phone, shared some emails back and forth, and then I got one. I saw it late at night. Yeah, and I guess this incident already happened, but you got a visit from our officials. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I had gone through and I had cleaned my 50 and wanted to run it. I think actually it's up here on the shelf. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it up there?
I could see the outline of it. Yeah.
And, you know, it's pretty loud. It's a 50 Action Express, and I was shooting that, and then I was shooting my Glock 33.
Oh, the Second Amendment. Oh, evil American.
Oh, well, yeah, you know, okay. Since we're playing show and tell, right? You'll like this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a Kimber 1911 Eclipse.
Oh, nice. I like that trigger. That's cool.
Yeah, this trigger breaks like glass. This thing is really sweet. This was a birthday gift for my wife. As was that one. That's a 3378 Krieger custom outfitter Weatherby.
Right. So you were out enjoying the Second Amendment, wasting some ammo that's in short supply. And what happened?
Sorry. So I walked in, and okay, I got to set this up as where I live. I have a tree right off my deck, and I shoot off my deck often. I have a 22 that sits in the kitchen on the shelf, literally. I just open the door, and I plink off a few rounds, and there's a bunch of holes in the tree. You know, this has been going on for a while. But I have this neighbor issue. This guy, because he was illegally accessing my property, and he didn't want to do it the right way, so I just had to close it off. Long story short. So he's harassed me. I'm sure that it's them calling. I guess the cop figured that out, but he shows up at 9:30, well, almost 10 o'clock at night. My wife is in bed. My wolf, I have an Arctic wolf, and she alerted me because she speaks and, you know, she has different barks. So I grab this pistol here, which has a light and a laser, and I walk outside. I'm walking out the deck, and I come up like this. I turn around, and I'm like, hey, who are you? At that point, I have this officer dead bang. And I don't know who he is because I can't see him. Next thing I see is a flashlight in my face and him going, we're the sheriff. And I'm going, who are you? Put the light down. I can't see you. I'm the sheriff. I can't see you. Put the light down. He wouldn't put it down. I put my weapon down and dropped the light. And then he tells me to come there. And I'm thinking, no, I've seen enough interactions with the officials and an armed individual. So I basically very loudly said, no, I'm going in the house. After that, I asked my wife to call the sheriff's office and find out what was going on. It turns out they came to find out if I was shooting safely because somebody had called 3 days previously because they heard high-powered rapid fire, which I guess means that it's more dangerous that way. Well, it turns out he talks to my wife yesterday, and as long as my wife swore that Second Amendment Jim was being a good boy, he wouldn't bother us anymore because he didn't want us to feel like we were on trial.
Oh, how nice of him. You know, on your own property even, you know.
Yeah, you know, it was, we had a saying in the Army, Bohica. Bend over, here it comes again.
Well, we're going to leave it at that. This has been a great interview. Very interesting person. And we didn't even touch, I don't think we even scratched the surface of where, you know, this country is headed, especially in that Big Brother Orwellian police state that we see now, and that is finally being talked about in the mainstream media. You know, Alex was making Police State 2000, showing the EAS broadcasting boxes, those takeover systems. We didn't even get into that and how that works.
No, absolutely.
You know,
because that's another under network of its own.
Right. Right, yeah, and that's just one that the government can go, we're cutting everything off, and, you know, they're going to do it in video games, they're going to do it online. Basically, any mode of communication that's out there, they want to be able to break in and talk over it.
The one thing that I know it seems a lot of people are interested about is the internet kill switch.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The internet kill switch. Now, it's okay to look at it like that, but I look at it in the sense of what you have to think is you're the big daddy spider and you got your little baby spiders everywhere, right? And you've got the main control panel or terminal. So it comes to, you can shut off individuals, you can shut off central offices, you can shut off main transport hubs, 1, 2, 1,000, you know, whatever you want to do. You could even do it with scripts so that it was a fully automated process. So the point I'm trying to make, yeah, they can shut it all down at once, but it also could be disrupted in any number of ways. And actually, it could be very easily disrupted, and then they turn around and say, hey, it was a terrorist act, which is...
Yeah. We got to control it all.
Nonsense. I just thought maybe we should just at least hit that internet kill switch thing.
No, that's good. I mean, there's so many different facets to this issue of communication and how we communicate because, yeah, while we have the access to talk via Skype through video and all that, they're recording all this. They're making a record of all this. But I think it's good that you're speaking out now, and I'd encourage people to contact you if they got any questions and, you know, become a voice out there because we need more people like you to stand up and say, hey, you know, what crazy Alex Jones is saying is actually true. You know?
Yeah, you know, that really kills me when I hear the crazy Alex Jones thing, especially my friend on, what's that chick on NBC or MSNBC?
Oh, Rachel Maddow.
Yes,
Mr. Maddow, yeah.
Oh my God. I better not even go there. I'll say something that I probably shouldn't.
Exactly. Hey, we'll talk to you again soon. This has been great. Thanks for coming on the show. And,
hey, thank you, man. Really enjoyed it. And, you know, I was a little nervous because I'm sure they're going to go hit my file at Langley now, but I honestly don't care. I had a lot of fun. I'd love to do it again. And, yeah, there's a lot to talk about. And, you know, people, please, check it out. Talk to, you know, contact me. None of this is classified. It's all out there. And everything I'm telling you is the straight up truth. Peace.
Right on. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Well, that was James Knox coming to us from California, telecommunications expert extraordinaire, and we're going to have him on a lot in the future. I have a feeling he's just got a lot of information. We didn't even cover, you know, we scratched the surface on it, covering some stuff. Well, let's all say happy birthday to 1984 as well. It is 64 years old, and what have we learned? That the government is further encroaching on our civil liberties, on our privacy. While they want privacy, while they don't want to talk about what they're doing, they want to know everything you're doing out there. So with that, if you're watching this on YouTube, this has been a 40-minute interview. Got 5 guys out there running the control booth and getting stuff together, building graphics and all that. Only 4. All right. They're correcting me. But become a member of PrisonPlanet.tv, especially if you're watching this on YouTube. We could use the support. PrisonPlanet.tv is where you can go for all the information, the nightly news, the radio show, get it streamed live. You could go back and access the archives. We got movies, just straight up interviews that we've done with people all over the country, ebooks, rants. It's all there. $5.95 a month. You can share your username and password with up to 11 people at the same time. So you could all be on watching this. And the Infowars magazine right here. This is our Bilderberg edition. It is still available. We still have a few in stock. It's got the double cover. There's a Skeletor crawling through the reflecting pool. And you can learn about Bilderberg and find out what they're doing there. That's Eric Schmidt on the front cover. You can get lots of different subscription things are available. You got a 20-pack, a 10-pack, a 50-pack, a 100-pack. You can get a 50-pack subscription. Comes with a stand. It's all there. Check that out, InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsShop.com. And with that, this has been a marathon Infowars Nightly News, but, you know, it is the birthday of 1984, so we have to celebrate it correctly and show you how you are being spied on, how Big Brother is watching you. And with that, I'm Rob Dew, and this has been the Infowars Nightly News.
That's what it stands for. Freedom worldwide.
You bad boy.
Stop telling the truth,
You
slave.
bad boy, Alex. You're a bad boy, you are, mate.
You slave. Be quiet.
Turn around.
America's fight in 1776 was the fight that went on for 1,000 years in the British Isles and in Scotland and Ireland against Norman usurpers that came in here and enslaved. That's what the fight's all about. That's what 1776 is all about. Absolutely. Hey, it's not about divide and conquer. It's about coming together for our future of humanity and citing and lighting fires in the rights of man. Yeah, come on. It's the time now.
Give the poor man a cup of tea. He's not even... Watch yourself, Alex. You've got to tell him a cup of tea.
Thanks very much. I'm off to lunch.
Hey, great meeting you. I've seen you work.
To meet you.
God bless, man.
Thank you.
Alex, have you got a message for Rachel Maddow?
Rachel Maddow, you're a failure. You see how they sell 1776 as a loss?
Yeah.
You guys pay for these empires and you get none of the goods. Just like we pay for the Iraq war and oil prices go up. It's all a big scam. None of these empires belong to us. All that belongs to us is freedom and our will to be free. And we are free.
Thanks for coming. That's great. That made fantastic.
Very inspiring to see the mainstream media outlets from other countries and around the world covering this event. And Alex there fired up with just a cast and crew of people from all over the world who are freedom lovers. He said as he's walking through the streets of England, more people are awake there than he's ever seen anywhere. And that is a testament to you out there getting this information out, spreading the word, making posts on Facebook, sending out videos, becoming members of Prison Planet TV, doing all the things you do to, you know, hopefully we could change this thing around because, you know, coming up, we're going to talk about how Bilderberg might even hold a press conference about their non-existent meeting. That doesn't happen. And, you know, it's no big deal that 100 of the world's richest financial elite get together in the weekend to discuss, you know, golf and pastries and stuff like that. And that takes us to our next article from Donna Anderson on Infowars.com. Yes, we do have a right to know what's going on at Bilderberg. Search Google News for Bilderberg coverage right now, and you won't see much from the mainstream media, even though it's happening right now. Why? Because they buy into the idea set forth by the rich and powerful members that it's a private party with nothing to see here, so move along, you dumb sheep. I'd added that one. But the discussions that occur at the Bilderberg Roundtable shape the corporate and government policies all over the world. Therefore, every person on the planet has a right to know what's going on. The general consensus among the mainstreamers and even some alternatives is that Bilderberg Shindig is a private party and it's none of your business what they discuss. If they don't want to share their meeting notes with us, that's fine, but that certainly doesn't mean that they're up to no good. No, it possibly couldn't mean that. You know, these guys are all above the board. In fact, you take a look at this month's issue of Infowars magazine, you can see some of the people who are
semi-retired. I'll probably write some books.
We love you, Alex.
Thank you. We love you,
Alex. You want to kill 80% of the world population, I saw.
Absolutely. If you look at State Department Memorandum 200 by Henry Kissinger, you guys want this on the BBC?
Keep going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's talk about the goals of people like David Rockefeller, who praised Mao Zedong and his killing of over 60 million people in the New York Times. Look it up. Let's talk about Henry Kissinger, State Department Memorandum 200, 1973, calling for shutting off resources worldwide so that they could starve third world populations and using war to destabilize countries so they couldn't industrialize, so that the Western world could maintain its dominance over everybody. They want a global new dark age, and they want all of us in the West poor as well. That's what they've talked about in some of their meetings from our moles, is how they want to make us poor so that we're so busy working 18 hours a day that we can't politically organize. They don't want a middle class. Tyrants always hate a middle class. These people want Agenda 21, a post-industrial world, a shutdown of society, and they are the enemy of free humanity, and I am here to put them on notice that the sleeping giant that is free humanity is rising! 1776. The answer to 1984 is 1776. 1776 worldwide.
We're in charge of America.
1776. You know that the Parliament
wasn't a good year for us.
No, it was a good year for you.
Was it?
Most of your Parliament, when they tested them and they were going to vote, were for freedom in the colonies, because they knew that those were Englishmen and women who were being denied their rights under Magna Carta 1215, and the king had to come to Parliament and demand that they vote for that declaration of war, and so they did it. And that's why they lost, because it was a civil war within the Magna Carta, and out of that we created the Bill of Rights and Constitution. America and the good parts of America is your heritage, and they've tried to turn you against it. 1776 belongs. Come on, Alex! You stop, boy! Yeah, your German queen is the usurper. Against the New World Order! America and England against the New World Order!
1776! We could have been in charge.
No! Take charge, the German king! He lost to the people of the United States, who were people trying to demand the Magna Carta!
So you could still be one of our colonies.
I know. Yes, the United States would still be a colony of the German royalty. But it's not. And you need to stop being a colony of the German royalty.
Stop telling the truth, slave.
And it's time to kick out the governor generals out of Canada and out of Australia. Time to remove the German monarchy. You like that? You asked me what 1776 stands for? Good news is though something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route.
Who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past.
The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat Al-Qaeda.
All you got to do is start looking around, start thinking for yourself, start investigating things, and you will see it all right there. So you have the power. Humanity has the power. We have the power. Do you want to fight? You better believe you got one!
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
As for me, give me liberty or give me death!
The answer to 1984 is 1776.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. Today's date is Thursday, June 6, 2013. I'm your host, Rob Dew, and we have an amazing show lined up for you. So let's get started with our top stories.
Tonight, are the Bilderberg members ready to speak on the record? Then, the mainstream media's epic fail at breaking even one Obama scandal. And Rob Dew speaks with a telecommunication insider who blows the lid off Big Brother's surveillance system. All that and more coming up on the Infowars Nightly News.
Yeah, we've got quite a show coming up. I spoke with Jim, our telecommunications consultant expert, on the phone several times this week. We did a 40-minute interview, which will be coming up at the end of the show. And let me tell you, basically he's going to validate everything Alex Jones has been saying about the EAS, the NSA, all those, that hub that sprang out of the Telecommunications Act in 1996. He's going to lay it all down for you, so be ready for that. But first, we go into Bilderberg news. This is out of Infowars.com. Massive police operation in effect as Bilderberg confab convenes. The Watford Observer reports that a massive police operation is being mounted around the hotel using anti-terror laws to close roads and footpaths as the Bilderberg confab convenes and members of the financial elite arrive to discuss their agenda behind closed doors. In addition to the large influx of police, the government has declared a no-fly zone over the globalist event, according to the newspaper. And in addition to that, they built an amazing wall, which is being dubbed the Great Wall of Bilderberg. Here's a picture of it right here. They took several days working overnight, putting massive concrete boulders, steel fence with cabling, everything to keep these parasites, these human degenerates, safe from us, the people who want to know what they're talking about. And one thing that has come out of this year that hasn't been seen before is the massive media presence. Alex Jones, by going down there and leading the charge, has been enveloped by media outlets from all over the world. They all want to know what's going on. Of course, you're not going to hear it from the mainstream media here because we're all crazy conspiracy theorists, and they build great walls of Bilderberg to hide nothing. That's why they built the giant fence. So we're going to go to a video, and this is Alex being addressed by the many press outlets, and he's being chorused by a great many of supporters and activists who also want to know what is going on at this conference. And you can find this video on our Ustream page. It's at ustream.tv/Alex Jones Live, or I'll make it easy for you. You go to Infowars.com/B. There it is. It takes you to that page right there. It takes you to the latest articles, the latest videos from YouTube. And if you scroll down, we have our latest from our Ustream page. So Infowars.com/B is where you go to get all that latest information. And we're going to go to that video right now.
That a large contingent of Bilderberg Group members, the younger people, mainly the media moguls and people like Peter Thiel, are openly debating on the real agenda this year, going public and having real transparency. And so I tell you now, it's time for you to speak to the press, and it's time for you to be honest about the things you've done before more of you get indicted like you did back in the 70s with the Lockheed Martin scandal. So know this, we're aware of your lobbying, we're aware of you behind the closed doors, trying to get your fingers into the government stream of money, and we are here to point out that this is going on, and it's outrageous that many of you are worth 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 billion that attend this, and that you would make the taxpayers fit most of the bill for the iron fence that you've demanded that be built around the compound that you're meeting in. It is disgusting, and it's nothing but a exclamation point illustrating how we pay for your whole life and your whole world, and most of you are a bunch of stinking parasites. Freedom for my children in the future and living. They're already trying to merge the North American Union that Bush signed back in 2005 in secret, but that got leaked, with the European Union. Those transatlantic deals are already being made. We know that's their plan to remove local control from the county, city, state, federal level. I want my U.S. government back. I don't want my representatives being puppets bought off in the dark behind steel fences. I want the criminal lobbying to stop now, and I want a future for my children.
What would you like to be doing in 5 years' time or 10 years' time?
In 5 years' time, I would like to be basically off the air, and I'd like to be no, I'd like to be a farmer on our family farm.
Oh, right.
That's what I would like to do, and I would like to see the globalists fall like the old Soviet Union. I'd like to see most of them, after a trial, obviously be sent to prison for the crimes against humanity that they've committed, and I would like to basically hand over the reins of my media operation to some of my crew to continue to muckrake. But if we weren't in such dire straits, I would not be broadcasting 7 days a week. I would not be traveling the world.
We appreciate
I would undoubtedly,
Attending the conference, there's Google Schmidt right there. And who's that right there? That's Vernon Jordan. He worked with Bill Clinton, and there's Bill Clinton right there. But Vernon Jordan was on the Clinton cabinet, and he's been to many Bilderberg meetings. In fact, last year, We Are Change confronted him about this, and of course he said, "Oh, pshaw, there ain't nothing to say. We just get together, you know, Kissinger dances on the table, we smear pastries on our faces. No, we're just having some good old fun. You must be a LaRoucher." So we're going to go to that video right now.
Mr. Jordan, very big fan.
Thank you.
If I could just ask you, our news organization actually ran into Bill Clinton, and he said you invited him to the 1991 Bilderberg group meeting.
Yeah, I did.
My question is, who selected him right before he became president, and what happened at this very secretive establishment with no coverage of the press?
Well, we just had a good meeting.
I mean, there's no press coverage. You have international elites in banking, media, corporations, and press meeting in secret, and everybody calls it a conspiracy, and it never happened.
Well, it's not a conspiracy. I've been going since 1969.
What happens then?
We have a discussion. There's an agenda, and we discuss it.
Barack Obama
put out a report
in 2008.
No, he's never been.
He's never been there?
No.
I can just ask, why is there no press coverage of something so important?
We don't want any press coverage. We don't have to have press coverage.
It is the world's elite meeting in secret. Many people say they've engineered this economic crisis to start a one-world government.
You listen to the LaRouche people. They don't know what they do.
No, not LaRouche people.
I just have to ask you. I mean, international reports have come out and they said that the Bilderberg does set up policy, and it's not just discussion.
We're not a policy-making group.
But Condoleezza Rice discussed missile defense systems, and it was reported by international sources that she set policy for it there.
No, she wasn't setting policy. She was making a speech. There's a difference. People come together, talk. We don't vote. Nobody pays us any attention. The only reason people pay us attention because there's this mystique around us.
And it's also violates the Logan Act. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, it's not. No.
Because you can't discuss policy with other people without approval from the government first.
Well, you can discuss policy with anybody, like I was doing in there.
I mean, it was said. I mean, some people say Bilderbergs have come out and said that they actually planned this economic crisis to create a one-world government, a one-world order.
That's just bullshit.
What about David Rockefeller saying himself he wants a one-world government?
But that doesn't mean that everybody accepts that. Okay.
It was started by Prince Bernhard, a Nazi as well.
He was not a Nazi. He's a Dutchman.
He's also a Nazi. Look that up, sir. And I thank you for your openness, and I thank you for talking to me.
Speaking of nothing going on, you know, if you get the new magazine, here's a poster of all the companies that are associated with Bilderberg, either through their members or through subsidiaries of their members, or they're owned by conglomerates, and there it is in the OTS there. You could see them all. Nothing going on here. Nothing going on here. Just a few thousand people, or a few hundred people that represent thousands of the corporations, the major corporations, the, you know,